Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to do a whip and chat as I start the Tale as Old as Time stitch along. Now those of you who knew me from a couple of months ago when I began stitching, I started this already. In fact, I started it twice. But why am I starting it again? You can see there's absolutely nothing done on this fabric. Well, I wanted to tell you what's going on. First of all, I'm a relatively new stitcher. I'm a little bit past the novice stage, not quite in the intermediate stage, and this is like the second or third project I tried to start around November/December. Now, before I start stitching, I just want to give you the story. I did a caterpillar cross stitch, Radiate Positivity. That went across great, no problems there at all, no bad stitches or anything. And then I started the temperature tree. I did the trunk, and then I started a Leslie Tear winter spring stitch along, and then I started this project here, Taylor's Oldest Time. And when I started this, the recommendation on the website is I'm trying to find my iPad. The recommendation is 16 count, and so I tried working with 16 count. So I just want to double check my measurements really quickly while I'm talking to you. And so when I decided to work on this, I went with the recommended fabric count, like I said, which was 16 count. However, there's a lot of fractionals in this pattern. I'm trying to find the page with the measurements. There's a lot of fractionals with this pattern, and I was unable to work those fractionals on 16 count fabric. That's my second go round. My first go round was my spacing, my counting was wrong. And then when I got down into the first room, here we go. When I got down to the first room, I was just looking for this page to tell me what my measurements are. When I got to this page, when I got to room 1, I totally messed up. And then I really tried with the fractionals, and it wasn't working. And I wasn't able to glean enough from experienced stitchers. I'm just using the fabric calculator. I mean the fabric calculator. 3-inch border, so that's 17 by 19. And okay, so with a 3-inch border, it should be 17 by 19. And I'm just going to go to 1, 2, 3 stitch just to make sure, because I don't want to take it off of the Q-snap. I just want to check what size I bought, just to be sure. Wasn't this order, wasn't that order. 14 count Da Vinci 80, 17 by 25. Yes, okay. So this is what I need to work with a 3-inch border. And if I check my 1, 2, 3 stitch order, which I don't think it's going to show my address. Let's see if I can open it. It says that I ordered 17 by 25. So I just wanted to double check. I just needed to double check because I don't feel like taking it off of here and all of that. So here's what I did. When I could not get the fractionals in on try number 2, I thought, okay, I'm just going to go with a bigger fabric. Okay, and if I go with a bigger fabric, I will go to 18 count. Well, lo and behold, or however you say it properly, I thought going up in number was going up in fabric. I did not realize going up in number was going smaller in fabric. I just didn't have enough experience to know that. Somebody did catch that on a Facebook group, and I was able to message her. That is Stephanie Nelson, who is Wolfpack Diamond Painting or something. And she was able to help me to understand, you know, the sizes, and I just didn't know. So here it says that I would not recommend going any smaller than 16 count fabric, since the rooms themselves are small and have a lot of details that may get lost on a smaller count. So I did not understand that word smaller. You know, when you're new at something, there's a lot of nuances to things, and I just didn't understand. So I thought that I had to go, I just had this wrong. So I am happy that I chose 14 count. I chose this very pretty Ada. It's called Da Vinci. Let's see if it has a color, if I can click it. So this is what I'm working with. I chose 17 by 25, as I mentioned, and it's Picture This Plus fabric, and it's a medium purple. So that's what I'm going to work with, and I'm ready to go. So I thought, while I get started with the first part of this, and the first part of this is the words, Tale as Old as Time. I'll just show you the words because I don't know exactly where it's at in here, but I'm just going to throw those words in. It won't take me all that long, since this is my third time doing it. Oh, I got a wire. Let's get rid of that wire. So I thought I would talk to you about mental health while I was working on this project. Now, I'm just going to get started, and we will just pick a spot. Don't worry, I did measure this on the upper left hand corner before I put it on the Q-snap. I just forgot to double check the size, so we're just gonna get it started. So I thought I would talk to you about mental health. Now, I already did a video on mental health about a month ago, and I have read a couple of books yesterday, and yesterday I read 2 books, and they both were very, very helpful. Now I'm going to struggle to see the hole, so I'm just going to bring it a little closer, and I'm going to try to adjust the camera. By the way, this is purple. It's not really reflecting well on camera, but it is a pretty purple fabric if it's not coming through. Alright, just have to get in there and get comfortable with doing this on camera. So when I made that video, I was on the tail end of recovering from grief of loss of something that I made too big a part of my life. And I say I made it too big a part of my life because when that came to a screeching halt, it hit me really hard. Now, the thing about mental health is when people experience things in their lives, their reaction is different based on a lot of factors. In my case, I have bipolar disorder as well as PTSD, major depression, and so forth. When I am triggered, I am reactive. And that's not a good thing, but it's a fact. And because I'm reactive, my reaction to what happened to me went to what some people would consider to be an unreasonable extreme. I lost my hope. I felt hopeless. I felt helpless, and I just did not have a will to live, and I had to be hospitalized for my own safety. So I've spent about a month and a half, about a month and a half, still in the recovery phase of what happened. And then I was reorganizing my books in my living room, and I realized that I have got to make time in my schedule to read some of the print ARCs, which is advanced reader copies, that publishers send me. I've got to make time to read these ARCs. Whoops, you can't even see what I'm doing. So I made 2 lists. The first list that I made in the first video I made was 20 NetGalley, which are digital reader copies, reviewer copies of ARCs that I want to read in the first part of 2022, at least by the end of spring. And then the next video I made with regard to my books was pulling off certain non-fiction ARCs off of my bookshelf that publishers have been sending me that I have never read. And I have them all organized. As a matter of fact, I will show you. Get my iPad again. I keep putting it down and never knowing where I'm putting it. Okay. I will show you something, because this is a stitch in chat, so you're going to see me chatting. So if I go into my recent reads for March 20th, which is next Sunday, the first book I read for this week was Run, Rose, Run by Dolly Parton. Now, this is not a nonfiction, but what I'm about to show you is most of these books are in two categories: audiobook arcs or print arcs. So the first audiobook arc I wanted to read was Run, Rose, Run by Dolly Parton. I'll jump ahead to right here. Camilla Knows Best, Killer View, Healthy Heart, Healthy Brain, the Bayou Trilogy, and Renegade. Those are audiobook arcs sent to me by the publishers. And now all of these books are out now, but as a matter of fact, I think I have a letter right here. Excuse me one moment. Somebody was saying, oh, you said that the Dolly Parton book was an ARC, an advanced reader copy, but that's already out. Yes, it is already out. But Jasmine, the publicist, sent us a letter saying that please be patient, but in the future I will try to get these books to you ahead of time. That's basically what this message is saying. Yes, she let us know that these are not pre-publication arcs, but in the future there will be more pre-publication arcs, and there will be occasionally post-publication arcs. So I received these arcs for March, but they were post-publication because of hiccups with that particular publicist. So that's why Run, Rose, Run by Dolly Parton and James Patterson came to me as an ARC that I didn't get. I'm just going to shut this light off while I'm chatting. So that's why these titles here, Run, Rose, Run, and these from here, these are all out, but when I get my April books, they will be pre-publication. So I wanted to make that clear. Then the next thing I wanted to do was to read some print arcs, and right here where you see from the Book of Hope, the Book of Moods. I know it's a little blurry. Let's see if I can enhance that. Give me a second. There we go. So the Book of Hope, the Book of Moods, Love People, Use Things, She Will Rise, Fighting Freedom, the Black Agenda, and Fighting for Space. Those are all print arcs that are nonfiction. So these are the books that I plan on reading before March 20th. Today is March 14th, as you can see right there. So these are the books that I plan on reading before Sunday. So why am I telling you all of this with regard to me mentioning my mental health? Well, the first two books that I chose to read were the Book of Moods and the Book of Hope. This is by Jane Goodall and Douglas Abrahams. It's an interview. And this is a book by Lauren Martin, the Book of Moods. So reading these two books was so incredibly helpful with regard to me being able to deal with my mental health issues. I'm sorry, I was a little bit away from the camera because I left my light on. So I have those books in lieu of some of the issues that I'm still coping with because of what happened to me and how it heavily impacted my mental health. Now, I have a lot of things. I lost my place. Let's see what, yeah. Sorry, I lost my place. Let me adjust the camera. So, I have a lot of help. I have 4 things. I have my faith, I have my family, I have my friends, and I have my therapist. And I will also say I have medication. I'm going to turn the light back on, my magnifier. So I have all of those things to help me cope with the stress of my mental health, and since I was triggered by what happened in social media. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, I don't mind telling you, I was heavily involved in a Zoom community that started off mostly diamond painters and segued into a lot of cross stitchers. And I was in Zoom one day, and I left Zoom to tie into my Kingdom Hall on another Zoom. And while I was in my Kingdom Hall meeting, I got a bunch of notifications, and each notification was I was removed. As a matter of fact, I made a video called Removal. It was sudden, it was harsh, it was brutal, it was unfair, and part of it was based on lies. But it was more so that people don't like my forceful personality. And that particular day that I was in Zoom, somebody had a question about where to start. Like, I started on the upper left, and when this young lady came into Zoom asking about where to start, there were two very experienced stitchers that were taking direction on helping her sort that out. But I opened my big mouth because the young lady was trying to use this tool, this cross stitch key. Now, both of those experienced stitchers, neither one of them have the cross stitch key, and this young lady was very frustrated with that key because she wanted to have a 3-inch border, and on one side of the key it goes up to 2.5 inches, but you have to flip it in order for it to go to 3 inches if you want a 3-inch border, which is what I have here, 3 inches on this side and 3 inches on that side. Well, I wasn't wise. I should have just shut the heck up and let the experienced stitchers help. Well, one of my friends was trying to get my attention so I would stop talking. And all I said was, all you got to do, not all you have to do, but if you flip the ruler, you might be able to see where your border is. Something along that line. But it was too much at that particular moment. And it was the straw that broke the camel's back, because as soon as I went to my meeting, within 25 minutes, I was kicked out of Zoom. 25 minutes. Based on what happened that day and on lies that were told, saying that I said certain things to an individual about the Zoom environment, which was completely unfounded. But I had no recourse to defend myself, and nobody would speak to me. I was iced out. I have one person who has chosen to remain my friend in this. But the thing is, people that I thought were my friends had ghosted me immediately. But somebody that I thought was a dear friend also ghosted me. A dear friend, a friend for years, before Zoom, before I even started cross-stitching, before I even started diamond painting. We were reviewers in common, and readers in common, and colorists in common. And so I did not respond well to the ending of that's the sudden ending of that friendship. And I still to this day have no explanation other than hearing me being referred to as toxic, which in all the years that we've been friends, I didn't realize we had a toxic relationship. So I Googled how to survive a friendship breakup because of being ghosted. And so between reading that article and reading these two books, the Book of Hope and the Book of Moods, I was able to find solace in accepting things for being the way that they are, and knowing that I don't have the power to change things. And even if I did have the power to change things, it would probably be, I just need to mark my stitches. It would probably be unhealthy for me to try to change things. So I had to come to accept that, and I tell you that reading those two books yesterday was so incredibly helpful, as well as the article, and I will show you the article. The article is How to Get Over a Friendship Breakup. And let's talk about this article before we talk about the books. It's never easy when friendships end. You might have been the one that decided, or maybe your former friend decided to end it, and that's the case with me. It may have been toxic or codependent. I didn't realize it was either. I thought it was totally fine, and I thought it was also wholesome. Or, in some cases, friendships might just drift apart. But whatever the case is, it's a tough deal. With me, Robin, it triggered me. You have to understand that. I have PTSD, and when I get triggered, I get reactive. So it was a very tough deal for me, and I'm still coping with it to this day. So basically the article just gives you some good advice, like avoid rumination, which is what I'm working on right now. Exercise, talk to someone, read about others in your situation. You know, very, very, very healthy advice. Then I got uplifted with these two books. So I'm going to stop stitching for a minute, put my stitching back in frame. Well, let's do this. So if we talk about Jane Goodall's book, Douglas Abrams, I don't even know who he is, but he interviewed her. It says with Gail Hudson. I guess she edited it. But it's a survival guide for trying times. And considering we are still like in, you know, if you look at the headlines, the pandemic, the war between Russia and Ukraine, climate situations, racial issues, political issues, it says it's very hard to be optimistic with all of these things going on. So how did naturalist Jane Goodall, and you guys will probably remember her, you know, with the chimpanzees, what did she say that would help people to have hope in these trying times? So I loved this book. What is hope? Jane's 4 reasons for hope. The resilience of nature, which is the will to live, or adapt or perish. Adapt or perish was an excellent chapter because it helped me to be able to adapt to the situation that I find myself in. I love this one right here. Nurturing the indomitable spirit in children, or how the indomitable human spirit helps us to heal. These 2 chapters were very, very pivotal for me, very, very instrumental. We have to have a certain spirit, a spirit of optimism, not a spirit of pessimism. And that's where that paper that I just showed you about not ruminating on the past, using a positive spirit in order to help us to heal. And then a conclusion was how Jane Goodall became a messenger of hope, because she was a shy child. And now she's a global speaker. I think there are 31 Jane Goodall Institutes all over the world. Excellent, excellent book. So that was really helpful. And then I read this book by Lauren Martin. I'm trying to make it so that you can see it. The Book of Moods, How I Turned My Worst Emotions into My Best Life. And I love how this book was written, and I'm going to show you why. Okay, you have several sections. Okay, the first section is, okay, we're a little blurry, so we're going to adjust the focus. There we go. The mood, past and future. Each section has the same chapters. The mood described, what the mood is telling you. Remember the writers. Swipe left, accept the worst. Well, not always the same chapters, but similar chapters. Accept the worst. See the past as a story. See stress as a challenge, and the mood transformed. Then talks about beauty, like how you feel about yourself. The mood describes, so it's a repeat. It helps you to deal with that. What that mood is telling you. Excuse me. Stop thinking you know what you look like. Stop self-cherishing and other things of that nature. I don't really have body positivity issues. Then work. The mood described, what that mood is telling you. Regretfully decline, and so forth and so on. This is where I really gleaned a lot from this book. The mood, friends, the mood described, what that mood is telling you. Find your flow. Rejection isn't rejection. Everyone's a freak, doing things you don't want to do, and the mood transformed. And then same chapters on family, on the body, talking about, because the other one was about how you feel about yourself, and this is more about the body. And this was basically, she was having some reproductive issues, so it talked a lot about how she coped with that. It also talked about sleep hygiene, find your true bedtime. Every one of us needs to consider sleep hygiene from time to time. Giving your body a routine. This is really great because I've been watching Fly Lady videos and how they time, like when you clean certain parts of your house, you set a timer, maybe say 10 minutes or whatever. So I just watched those videos yesterday, so this chapter right here about routine was really instrumental. And then unforeseen circumstances, like being kicked out of an environment where you thought you were accepted. So the mood described, what the mood is telling you. Think of the feathers you'll get. Moment of appreciation, realizing your path is somewhere else. I love that. Remember, down is part of up, and the mood transformed. These two books were so helpful. I learned so much. In part, I learned a little bit more about myself. Let me just get myself back where I can see. I learned more about myself, and I learned how to cope with those triggers that affect my mental health. Because remember, I wanted to talk a little bit about mental health, a lot about mental health in this video. And, you know, one of the things that I can say is the actions of others can affect how we respond to certain situations. And sometimes when people do certain things, they're so self-centered that they don't see that they can hurt other people. And I just hope that people will be a little bit more aware of how hurtful they can be, whether it's thoughts, actions, or whatever. And then there's another thing I wanted to mention. In yesterday's talk, in yesterday's Bible talk, there was an illustration about not giving up. Like, say for example, you get stumbled. Like in my case, I got stumbled and I was suicidal. Well, the illustration that he used was, if a family is going on vacation and they're driving and they're singing in the car, everybody's happy, and then they get a flat tire. The father goes, "Oh well, we have a flat tire, vacation's over, let's go back home." Would the father do that? Why can't I see this hole? Would the father do that? No, of course not. He's going to fix that flat tire and continue on with his family and take them on a beautiful vacation. Well, that's how we should view life. We get stumbled, but we don't give up. We fix the problem the best way that we can, and then we continue on. And that illustration really helped me. As a matter of fact, I heard that illustration before I read those two books, the Book of Hope and the Book of Moods. So having that illustration in the back of my mind while I was reading those two books by Jane Goodall and Lauren Martin was really helpful to me. And I hope that it will be helpful to somebody else. You know, we can't give up. We can't let the actions of others cause us to be hopeless and helpless. And that's something that Jane Goodall talks about in her book, is how not to be hopeless and helpless. And I needed that. And I don't, you know, like I said, the only reason that I was even reading some of these nonfiction books was because I was reorganizing my bookshelf. Because my son was here a few weeks ago and he's like, "Ma, that bookshelf is in bad shape." So I've been kind of looking at it, trying to figure out how I can reorganize, because I get hundreds of ARCs from publishers. And so I started reorganizing and I pulled out all those nonfiction books, and I'm like, wow, the Book of Hope and the Book of Moods, right when I'm going through what I'm going through. So all I can say is one of the things that article that I found on Google said, don't ruminate or avoid rumination. And I have to stop ruminating over the past. What Jane Goodall was talking about is acceptance. I have to accept that my circumstances are what they are, but my life is not over. Now, I said earlier that I have things that are really, really helpful to me: faith, family, friends, therapy, and medication. They all play pivotal roles. One will not work without the others. Maybe two or three would work, but with all of them in conjunction, it makes it so that I can survive. And I found a new direction, a lot of new directions. As a matter of fact, the first thing that I decided to do was to take some of the pressure off of myself with regard to my reading. The last 2 years, I set my reading goal for Goodreads for 500 books. A couple of years ago, I think I read 618 or something, I don't remember. And then in 2021, I read 584. So I set the goal for 2022. Is that 1, 2, 3? So I set the goal for 2022 to be 600 books. So the first thing I did was to be kind to myself. I dropped that goal to 400. I took $200. I took 200 books off of that reading goal so that I did not pressure myself to reading 2 books a day. The second thing I did was remember that I have television series that I used to really enjoy, but when you're involved with some social situations, you can develop a FOMO, fear of missing out. So Zoom was on pretty much 24/7, so I skipped a lot of my shows, a lot. And I just named some: 911, New Amsterdam, The Resident, Chicago Fire, Chicago Med, This Is Us, A Million Little Things. I stopped watching all of my shows because you can't have your television on if you're in Zoom, and I couldn't miss Zoom because I was afraid of missing anything. So in being kind to myself and letting myself off the hook without trying to read 2 books a day, I decided to catch up on my shows, to binge watch. Between Paramount, Peacock, and Hulu, that and On Demand. Between all of those services, I caught up on my shows. So this week is a reading week. I think I'm only giving myself to watch, well, there is a show I'm watching tonight. But as far as binge watching, the only day I'm planning on binge watching is Wednesday. And other than the show that I'm watching tonight and tomorrow, I will be reading for this week. And then we'll reevaluate what I'm going to do next week. So that's one of the things that I decided to change about myself, is to take some of the pressure off. I'm not signing up for as many blog tours. Yeah, I have quite a few coming up, probably 120, but that's over the course of between now and August. So I am being a little bit more selective with the blog tours. Instead of doing 30 a month, trying to do 15 a month. So I'm trying to be kind to myself. I'm trying to enjoy my family. There is some grief. I lost my sister-in-law, and so there's sadness on that level. But I am trying to enjoy the contact that I have with my grandkids, and I'm also happy that I have a very good friend. But by the way, that very good friend needs prayers. Her health is not well, and she just needs prayers, and she's in my prayers every day. That's 5. I need 6. So I have a very dear friend. I've got another friend who I'm getting closer to, and that's really enjoyable, and I'd like to connect with other friends. I'm also trying to connect with some of my friends from the Kingdom Hall, because I just neglect that part of my life. But we're going back to our meetings as of April 1st. So having, soon I will be seeing people in person, and I can reestablish those relationships as well. I kind of think I might be off a stitch. Let's see. Nope. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I'm good. So all of those are things that I'm trying to do in order to fix my life, fix my health, fix my spirit. My 40th anniversary is coming up in a few days, so I'm happy about that, and that's all I can do. So I just wanted to talk, like I said, get started on this one, talk a little bit about mental health, and talk about having hope and using moods in ways that can be productive instead of destructive, and being kind to myself and being loving. And I want to mention one other thing. I have a Pollyanna attitude, and I've got to grow up. It makes me naive. If I like you, you like me. If I'm kind to you, you'll be kind to me. Well, that's just not true. And so I'm learning a little bit about being a little bit tougher and working within a value system, being around people who share the same values, and not allowing someone to destroy my spirit. So I have a lot of growth that I'm working with, and I'm finding a lot of joy. I'm very, very happy right now, extremely happy, very content. And another thing too, speaking about being happy and being content, is my YouTube channel. When I made that removal video, I lost, I think, 11 subscribers from the people that were in Zoom, most likely. But I've gained back 51. So the channel's growing, and I want to thank everybody that stayed with me and that has joined and that will be joining. And stay with me, because we're going to do a giveaway very, very soon. So we're going to end this, and I'm going to continue working on this off camera, and maybe I'll do another stitch and chat when I start working on the turrets, which will be like right here where you see the mouse moving. So maybe I'll do another stitch and chat in a couple days when I work on that section. But for now, I want to thank everybody for watching and say goodbye. Oh, please like and subscribe. Take care.